This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Pei Jiuqi's face was cold as he roared and clenched his fingers in the air. An unparalleled force pressed down on Yunxiao from all directions, shaking the space as if it was going to crush everything. I can't help but say that your mental strength is really good. I just don't know if your body can be as tough as your mouth. Yunxiao raised his eyes in surprise and said with a smile, "Your tone is the same. I now believe that you are Pei Mingyuan's parent." With a clap of his right hand, a ray of light bloomed and the surrounding temperature seemed to drop to the extreme. The frost on the cold sword turned into a few ice flowers and directly cut open the space. All the squeezing force was instantly gone. Pei Jiuqi was taken aback, and a look of hesitation appeared in his eyes. At first glance, Yunxiao's sword was undoubtedly a 9th tier 1, and the strike also proved that the man was by no means a martial grandmaster, but at least a martial supreme. So, he must have a treasure that could suppress his cultivation aura. He began to worry about the man's background. The city of Yanwu was now a spiritual mountain that was no weaker than the 7 superpowers. When Mount Meru collapsed, it attracted 2 titled martial emperors and even the Holy Iron Token, which made many powerful men stop their greed and wait and see. Now, Yunxiao's treasures, his calm methods, and demeanor made Pei Jiuqi feel bewildered. If he had the backing of a titled martial emperor, he could not afford to offend him, not even the entire Luli Villa. Even the Red Moon City had offended a titled martial sovereign back then, causing one of the 3 great aristocratic families to almost be removed from the continent. Pei Jiuqi's expression turned ugly. He didn't know whether to advance or retreat. He could only say angrily, "You have some ability. Seeing that it's not easy for you juniors to cultivate, I can't take advantage of my seniority. Hand over the method to unseal my son first, and I'll let you off lightly for today's matter." Yunxiao looked at Pei Mingyuan with a smile and said, "I asked you to help me find out about the moon pearl in the East Sea. How did it go?" Pei Mingyuan's face was filled with anger and he didn't know how to answer. Yunxiao's smile faded as he said coldly, "It seems that you've stood me up. The most important thing in a person is honesty. You broke your promise, but I can't. If I unseal you now, wouldn't I be going back on my word? Life and death is a small matter, but breaking one's promise is a big matter." Everyone felt dizzy after hearing this. They secretly admired this kid's backbone. He dared to act like this in front of the vice villa master of Luli Villa. If he did not have an extremely strong trump card, he probably had a very strong backing. Even the onlookers around could see the fearlessness on Yunxiao's face, and Pei Jiuqi was even more confused. He was even more certain of what he had thought, "This kid has a very strong background, and now I can't kill him or retreat. What should I do? I don't care anymore, I'll capture this person first and have him unseal my son. If he has a strong backing, then I'll let him go. If he doesn't have a backing, or if he doesn't have one, then the thing he regrets the most in his life will be coming to Red Moon City." After making up his mind, Pei Jiuqi's figure flickered and he shouted as he tried to grab Yunxiao. "How dare you commit a crime in Red Moon City in broad daylight?" Yunxiao shouted. "Do you have any respect for Red Moon City?" His shout gathered yuan qi and spread out like ripples on the surface of a lake. At the same time, he raised his ice sword with his right hand. The droplets of water in the air gradually condensed and quickly gathered at the tip of the sword. The sword was as fast as lightning and stabbed towards Pei Jiuqi. An ice lotus flower bloomed. Although it was beautiful, the sword light was sharp. Pei Jiuqi was shocked. He realized that he didn't dare to take the sword with his body. One should know that with the suppression of the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens, any attack below the rank of a martial supreme should have been easily crushed. What was going on? Pei Jiuqi didn't have time to think. He stepped forward and dodged the sword. Then, he raised his hand and another sword light pierced the sky. He shouted, "To be able to make me draw my weapon, you should be proud of yourself for the rest of your life." Yunxiao could not help but laugh. If Pei Jiochi had said that in front of him at his peak in his previous life, it would have been a funny scene. The long sword in his hand danced in the air a few times, and he pulled it back in front of him to block. Dang! Pei Jiochi's sword radiance stabbed into the ice sword. Not only was the power of the weapon shaken off, but it also bloomed into ice flowers that shot out in the air and froze the space at the same time. Yunxiao was sent flying several meters away by the force of the sword, and he had to exert an infinite gravity to gather on his feet to avoid crashing into the restaurant and flying out. The long table they were sitting at was instantly shattered by the artifact aura. Luo Qingyun and the other three spread out at the same time, their auras bursting out as they took out their weapons and surrounded Pei Jiochi. With extremely serious expressions on their faces, they decided to join forces with Yunxiao. Manor Master Pei, you're a martial sovereign of the Ninth Heaven and a senior of the Eastern region. How can you attack me? Neilin Jishuan shouted. If he really has the ability, he should have let Pei Mingyuan come out to fight. Could this be the elegant bearing of the seven-star sons of the Eastern region? Is this the style of Luli Villa? Shut up. Jiang Ruobing also chided, no one is allowed to be presumptuous in Red Moon City. Pei Jiochi was shocked that Yunxiao could take his sword. When he heard the words of the juniors, he sneered and said, before I came in, some people said that they were not afraid of the Red Moon City. Why are they using the Red Moon City to suppress me now? I'm not afraid because I have the right to be, Jiang Ruobing sneered. You're breaking the rules of the Red Moon City by being so impudent. Pei Jiochi's face was filled with anger and he said coldly, what an arrogant junior. The rules of Red Moon City vary from person to person. As the vice master of Luli Villa, what can I do even if I break them occasionally? The sword chi in his hand grew stronger and stronger, and he pressed it directly on several juniors, making it difficult for Luo Qingyun and the others to rush into the battle. Meanwhile, the sword emitted an aurora and flew toward Yunxiao. Although he did not dare to take Yunxiao's life with one strike, he intended to cripple his combat strength in an instant and take him away. Now that the undercurrent was surging in Red Moon City, he was afraid of an accident. Be careful. Yunxiao. Jiang Ruobing cried out in alarm. She was very anxious when she saw that Yunxiao was about to be cut down by the sword. Although they had a little misunderstanding and conflict earlier, she had already regarded him as a friend. Humph. A cold snort came from the sky. A red light flashed and a sword light shot out from the sword. It hit Pei Jiochi's sword and created a whirlwind. The entire restaurant was about to be destroyed. The red figure clenched his fingers and a black hole appeared in the sky. It sucked in all the power of the aftermath and everything returned to normal. Pei Jiochi was shocked as he looked at the red figure in front of him. The red figure had a sword in his hands and his face was cold. The murderous aura that he exuded made him feel cold all over. Yoring Luo. Pei Jiochi was shocked. He suddenly held his sword in front of him and put his whole body on guard. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to handle the sudden attack. Jiang Ruobing was overjoyed to see this man, but she quickly hid it. She turned her head away, afraid that the man would see through her. Come with me. The man said indifferently as he stared at the ceiling, as if no one in the hotel would even spare him a glance. Take a trip? Me? Where to? Pei Jiochi was at a loss and asked suspiciously. The man in red spat out 2 words and said, the dungeon. What? The dungeon of the Red Moon City? Pei Jiochi was taken aback, but then he breathed a sigh of relief. He had thought that the man in front of him was Yunxiao's backer, and that would be troublesome. But, it turned out that he was just from Hongwei City, which made things much easier. So it's the Lord of the Red Moon City. May I know your name? The man's face was expressionless as he said, the rules of the Red Moon City indeed differ from person to person. I've never been afraid to admit this. For example, if a few lords from the Holy Region and the Sea of Soul Formation arrive, or if a titled martial sovereign descends, we won't care if they cause trouble and kill people. To be honest, we can't care. But you're not qualified. Come with me to the dungeon. Pei Jiochi hurriedly replied, I am the vice master of Luli Villa, Pei Jiochi. My wife is also a Bai-en of the Red Moon City. Enough. The person waved his hand and interrupted him. He finally looked down from the ceiling and landed his gaze on Pei Jiochi. If I don't see you report to the dungeon in half an incense's time, you will die. If I see you make another move within half an incense stick's time, I'll kill you. The word die struck Pei Jiochi's heart like a hammer, causing his face to change and turn pale. However, the man in red had disappeared from where he was standing, leaving no trace behind. It was as if he had never appeared. However, all the martial artists in the restaurant had recovered from the shock and began to show a mocking expression, watching the people of Luli Villa make a fool of themselves. Pei Jiochi stood rooted to the ground, completely dumbfounded. He was sure that if he attacked again, or if he did not go to the dungeon, he would not be able to walk out of the Red Moon City. Father, what's good about this Bai-en? Pei Mingyuan was also confused and had no idea what to do. He said angrily, although this Red Moon City is powerful, they're not giving our Luli Villa any face. Father, you're a vice master of a sect, and I'm one of the 7 stars of the eastern region. They're too cowardly. Shut up. Pei Jiochi glared at him with a livid face. The more he said those words, the more embarrassing it would be. Now that hundreds of people were watching, his embarrassing story would soon be spread out. It was really embarrassing. He suddenly remembered what Yunxiao had said earlier, face is not given by others, but it must be lost by yourself. It did make sense when he thought about it carefully. His face was livid and he said to Pei Mingyuan, quickly send a message to your mother. Tell her to meet the mistress of the Jiang family, Lady Wan Hongyu, and try to get me out as soon as possible. Under everyone's gazes, he was both embarrassed and angry. He immediately turned into a ray of light and left. Everyone knew that they were going to the dungeon of Red Moon City, and the entire restaurant immediately burst out with all kinds of ridicule and laughter. Luli Villa is indeed a powerhouse of the eastern region. Their movement technique and escape technique are truly terrifying. I specialize in spiritual sense cultivation arts, so I can't sense anything within 100 kilometers. That's right. Although the Red Moon City is huge, with this kind of movement technique, I'm afraid he will reach the dungeon in an instant. The Lord of the Red Moon City really underestimated Deputy Villa Master Pei. He actually gave him half an incense's time. It's too hurtful. That's right, I can't stand it anymore. I've heard that the Red Moon City's dungeons are filled with extremely vicious criminals who have not seen a woman for many years. Do you think that such a soft and tender-looking person like Villa Master Pei would be dispirited after entering? Someone took out a lute and started to play it, humming softly, the chrysanthemum is withered, full of wounds. Your smile has turned yellow, the flower falls and breaks the heart. Shut up. Pei Mingyuan roared, and the people of Luli Villa also glared at him, ashamed and resentful. If you have the time to embarrass yourself, one of the martial artists said sarcastically, you'd better go and save your father's ass. The other martial artist also sneered. What are you staring at? If you have the ability, come and hit me. Come on, hit me, hit me. Pfft. Pei Mingyuan was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't know whether to fight or not. The key was that even if he went up to fight, he might not win. The martial artists in the hotel were all fierce, but there were also many good ones. Good, good. This young master has remembered all of your appearances. When we leave Red Moon City, I will settle the score with you all. Pei Mingyuan knew that he had lost all his face today, but losing face was better than losing his life. A man could yield and stretch. He was quite open-minded, worthy of being one of the 7-star sons of the eastern region. Li Yunxiao, please unseal me, he said to Yunxiao. Although there are some unpleasant misunderstandings between us, it's all in the past. I hope you don't keep dwelling on the past, and we can look forward to the future together. Luo Qingyun, Neilin Jixuan, and Su Qing all knew the inside story, but they were all speechless. They suddenly seemed to understand why he was one of the 7-star sons of the eastern region, and they were not. It seemed that this so-called 7-star child not only required strength to enter, but also a thick skin and shamelessness. With these two characteristics, one would indeed live longer than ordinary people. Yunxiao seemed to be used to it. He chuckled and said, "Brother Pei, the seal I placed actually has no effect on one's strength, but if it is not removed within 7 days, the man's masculinity will gradually begin to become a bear, and in the end, he will not be able to lift it again. At that time, Brother Pei will become the most unique one among the 7-star children of the eastern region. It can be said that you will be unique." "What? You?" Pei Mingyuan's face turned pale and he said in horror, "You're so vicious." "If I were vicious," Yunxiao said with a smile, "I wouldn't have given you these few days. 7 days is enough for you to leave a descendant for the Pei family. Good luck." Pei Mingyuan's eyes were full of hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'll send a message back to my mother. She's Ruan Hongyu's cousin and will be of great help. I hope you won't go back on your word." He left with the people of Luli Villa worriedly. The matter of helping Yunxiao retrieve the moon pearl of the East Ocean had far surpassed finding a way to save his father. The crowd whistled and sighed at Luli Villa's group. All sorts of taunting and ridiculing continued. They only stopped after they had walked far away. However, there was one more interesting topic to talk about over tea. Su Qing had escaped again. He came up to say hello to Yunxiao and the others. As for Ge Pingfei, he had long been ashamed and fled. "You can stay and recuperate for a while, Brother Su," Luo Qingyun said with a smile. "Maybe you'll get a good ranking in the arena tournament. Even if I can't bring back the beauty, I can still meet the heroes of the world." Nailin Jishuan nodded and said, "Brother Luo is right. Although it's the Zhang's second young ladies joust for a spouse event, it's almost the same as the #1 martial arts contest of the younger generation. Almost all the famous experts of the younger generation of the realm of heavenly martial arts have gathered here. Many people have come to participate in the competition with the idea of seeing the heroes of the world. Wouldn't it be a pity to miss such a grand occasion?" Jiang Ruobing's expression turned cold. "These boring men," she snorted. "They're making fun of other people's marriage. How despicable. Since you don't want to get married, why are you participating in the competition and wading into muddy water?" The maidservant beside her, Xiao Xue, covered her mouth and laughed. "Young master's anger is unreasonable. It's not that they don't want to marry, but they don't have the ability. After all, there is only one person in the quota, and if he wants to defeat the world's heroes, he is almost the first person in the younger generation. Other than the head of the 7 stars of the Eastern region, the head of the 5 heroes of the Western region, and the chief of the 4 talents of the Northern region, who in the world can have such confidence?" Su Qing smiled bitterly. "Little brother, you're right. Who doesn't want to marry the Jiang family's second young miss, whether it's her looks, family background, dowry, or other aspects? Who doesn't want to marry her? It's just that it's important for people to know their own limitations, so most people just have the attitude of watching the fun and participating." "So, Brother Su, you're planning to participate as well?" Yunxiao laughed. Su Qing hurriedly said, "Brother Yunxiao, you must be joking. Perhaps I had such thoughts before. But after I met you, I ran." He smiled bitterly. "After meeting Brother Yunxiao, I realized how shallow and short-sighted I was before. I realized my true level. I was a frog at the bottom of the well before." Although he had lost a lot this time, he had also gained a lot. "I plan to return to the Tide Listening Pavilion and cultivate in seclusion. I won't come out until I'm a martial sovereign of the 9th heaven." Seeing that he had made up his mind to leave, it was not appropriate for them to force him to stay. After pouring wine and drinking a cup together, Su Qing left the table. At that moment, the hotel owner had ordered his men to clean up the things that Pei Jiochi had destroyed. Yunxiao and the other 4 were sitting around a table again. The hotel owner gave Jiang Ruobing a meaningful look and said, "Young master, did you see what happened just now? I hope that young master can bear with your temper. In Red Moon City, you must abide by the rules of Red Moon City, otherwise, you will have to go to the dungeon and die." Jiang Ruobing looked innocent and asked in surprise, chrysanthemum ruin? What's a broken chrysanthemum? Young master, you're so good at acting, the hotel owner laughed. You know what I mean. Jiang Ruobing was stunned for a moment and quickly said, I don't understand. However, the owner had already left, so she could only ask the others. The owner's words are so strange. Brother Luo, sister Zhishuan, what does a broken chrysanthemum mean? Luo Qingyun and Nailin Zhishuan broke out in cold sweat, shaking their heads and saying they didn't understand. I'm drunk and wandering, Yunxiao said with a smile. Don't let the chrysanthemum bloom. The boss's meaning is for you to drink well and not let down the beautiful scenery. It also means that you should enjoy your life while you're still young and not wait until your chrysanthemum is withered, and the wine has turned cold, wasting the time. Nailin Zhishuan gave Yunxiao a resentful glance, which meant, is it really good to misinterpret words like this? She would lead Brother Bing astray. I see. When the flowers bloom, they must be folded, but don't wait for the chrysanthemums to wither in autumn, Jiang Ruobing said. Big brother Yunxiao, is this what you mean? Yunxiao felt dizzy. He did not expect Jiang Ruobing to be able to draw inferences about other cases from one case. He wiped his cold sweat and said awkwardly, probably. I'm not well read, so I'd better let Brother Luo and Ms. Nailin explain in detail. Don't say that young Master Yunxiao is talking nonsense. Nailin Zhishuan retorted. That's an insult. Suddenly, she said seriously, by the way, Brother Luo, you said that you wanted to bring Brother Bing to find young Master Yunxiao. You said that only young Master Yunxiao can help in the entire Red Moon City. Zhishuan is a little confused. Although young Master Yunxiao's strength is unfathomable, he is still. She looked puzzled. Although she knew that Yunxiao was not a simple man, she was still doubtful that he could do it. Wow, so you're scolding me. Jiang Ruobing's face turned red, feeling that she had been fooled. She was angry, but after hearing Nailin Zhishuan's words, she hurriedly asked with concern. Luo Qingyun looked at them and said with a smile, Yunxiao's strength is indeed nothing in Red Moon City, but he has one thing that no one can match, and that is his courage. No matter how I think about it, he's the only one who would dare to do this. All of a sudden, all four people's eyes were fixed on Yunxiao, who felt his scalp go numb. What are you talking about? I'm not well read, don't scheme against me. Luo Qingyun laughed. What are you talking about? It's actually very simple. You just have to take Brother Bing away from the Red Moon City. As for the reward, you can name it. Jiang Ruobing became nervous all of a sudden, and her face was full of anticipation. Luo Qingyun and Nailin Zhishuan did not point out Jiang Ruobing's identity. They had already guessed that Yunxiao had long known about it. Yunxiao was taken aback, wondering if this little girl was really running away from the wedding. If she ran away, how would Red Moon City explain it to the world? After thinking about it carefully, he realized that he was the only one who dared to help her run away from the wedding. If it were anyone else, even a peak marshal supreme would be afraid of it. In any case, he had long been at odds with the Red Moon City, and he had no intention of repairing the relationship in this life. If he really wanted to help, he could hide Jiang Ruobing in the Divine Realm tablet, and even the gods would not be able to find her. He smiled and said, this is a matter of life and death, yet you still say you're not scamming me. However, if you can get me the 18 moon pearls from the dowry of the second young lady of the Jiang family, I'm willing to risk my life to try. The four of them felt a chill in their hearts. Jiang Ruobing said anxiously, what do you want those beads for? They're useless other than being pretty. If you're willing to help me, I'll definitely give you a reward that's worth far more than those beads. Luo Qingyun also said in a deep voice, the 18 moon pearls of the East Ocean are already on the dowry list of the Jiang family's second young lady. It's too difficult to get them. Li Yunxiao, are you just looking for an excuse for not wanting to help? Whatever you say. If I wanted to deliberately find an excuse, Yunxiao said indifferently, I would have just stated the condition for me to win first place in the arena battle. In that case, all the dowry and beauties would be in my hands. I heard that Jiang Ruobing is also a stunning beauty. Improper thoughts. Jiang Ruobing said, all the young talents in the world are here. The 7 stars of the eastern region, the 5 heroes of the western region, the 4 prodigies of the northern region, and countless disciples of aristocratic families are all here. Do you think you can defeat all the heroes in the world and win the first place?